Yes, guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I'm Sean Butler. There's Bugsy Malone, just over there. She's the one you've been asking about. How's she doing? Where is she? How is she? She's okay. She's better now. She's had a bad ear, so I couldn't sort of do walks and talks and also keep her out of the lake and things whilst her ear was getting better. But we're back now, so hopefully you can see that she's okay and your questions are answered. Guys, do me a favour, smash the like button for me if you enjoyed the video. Smash the subscribe if you haven't already on the channel on the march towards 36k. Thank you so much for all the support, by the way. It's been absolutely sensational. Hit the notification bell and drop a comment. Let me know your thoughts on today's topics. Now, I just want to spend a couple of minutes talking about yesterday's game and some of the takeaways that I maybe hadn't seen when I was at the game versus what I saw on the highlights. And that you guys called me out a little bit for, not called me out, but sort of mentioned when I was talking about the takeaways on the drive home. And then we can get straight into some of the transfer news views and clues, of which we've got to talk about Richalison, Zabarnyi, Xavi Simons, Jacob Ramsey, and Morgan Gibbs-White, where there is a big update. So please hang around for that in a minute. Just quickly, though, I wanted to kind of really talk about my excitement after watching yesterday's performance. The performance itself wasn't spectacular. There were some obviously memorable moments from some. I think obviously Luka Vuckovic's debut is the talking point of everybody. You know, a goal, an assist, a goal line clearance, a crunching tackle, all within 10 minutes of putting the shirt on. Absolutely insane. And yeah, someone that I really want to see around, and I genuinely think that with the system and the structure, we can use him in so many ways that will be of benefit to us over the coming season. So, you know, it's that early. It's stupid to say these sorts of things, but I genuinely do think that right now, I don't want to see anything to do with him being loaned out right now. I need to see him, like him and someone like Jamie Donnelly, to me, are decisions that you can make on their future right at the end of the pre-season, before the season starts, before the window closes, and that you can feel confident that there'll be many teams that will take them on at the championship level if that's what they think is necessary. But for now, I think we've seen so much that we need to see more before we can, if there's any doubts, we can sort of make that decision. I think I got, you know, a lot of you guys in the comments said that I wasn't giving Kudus enough flowers. He was really aggressive and energetic throughout the game from the 45-minute onwards. And I watched the highlights back, and obviously, yeah, like when I was talking about the fact that he was a little bit kind of quiet in the first 15 minutes, I wasn't mentioning or talking about his corner kicks. I meant more around his open play, and not because he was not involved, but because we were pushing it all down the left-hand side like we seem to do as par for the course as a Tottenham strategy. But having looked back, I actually did see things that I missed in real time. And yeah, look, it's a really good performance from him, really good opening gambit. And look, it's certainly been a long time since I felt really confident that Tottenham have got someone who can sit on the right-hand side and can take players on, who's comfortable in close control, who's powerful, who can turn, who's got that acceleration. And if we can get that version of him, that happy version, that energized and engaged version of him throughout the season, and I think we've got an absolute monster on our hands. The same with Vuckovic, as I say. You know, what an unbelievable debut from him. You guys also said that I was probably wrong on Alfie Devine, that you thought he was the better player in the first half. What I would say is that there wasn't anyone. He might have been the best player in the first half. I didn't see that or think that at the time, but there wasn't much to write home about in the first half. But here's what I would want to sort of just summarise, though, guys, is the realities for me. Actually, shush. For me, what I saw yesterday, beyond the individual efforts, was something which was more exciting, which was the amount of tactical utility, things that were getting implemented that we've never seen under Ange for the last 2 years, and a group of coaching staff that are constantly engaged. Cochrane and Thomas Frank always looking at their iPad, playing around with things, talking about things, looking at data in real time. You know, new school football. It doesn't always mean it's going to be successful, but at least engagement in the process, rather than what we were seeing under Ange, which was a lot of, not just Ange, but the coaching staff as well, just everyone just sitting there watching the game kind of thing, and not a hell of a lot of communication. With those two and the team behind them, it looked more, I think it looked like there was more value attribution. And you could see that we've got for them, a bunch of players now with higher quality than what they're used to, and they're more, they're taking advantage of it more with regards the way that they are deploying tactics in game. As I said to you, one of the things that I noticed about Brennan Johnson was he was doing something that he used to do at Forest, but never did at Tottenham, which is sit on the shoulder, and when the ball is on the left-hand side, in this case, yesterday's case, it was Danzo, or when it was with Udogie, or even if it was with Bentancur, but he drifted left to pick the ball up, and then on certain triggers or signals that they obviously had communicated, Brennan Johnson was like drifting out wider off the back of the shoulder of the left back who wasn't paying attention, and then he'd loop round and then get a march on the left back who was stationary in his offside trap. And those sorts of things, that's kind of what like Chelsea did to us in the 10th game or the 11th game against us when we lost them down to 9 men. It took them a while to figure out the trick, but in the end they figured it out by starting the run deeper and then just beating the offside trap on the halfway line. And you can see that there's value there. There's coaching. In the first instance, there's coaching, there's tactics, there's tools, there's utility, there's versatility, and that everybody, no matter what you think of them in this squad as a player, they all have things in their locker that this coaching staff are starting to put to work. And it's exciting because I felt like we've had like a rough diamond of a squad that needs to be polished, like a lump of coal that a diamond was inside it, but it needs to be, you know, the pressure needs to be on it and the polish needs to come out, and then you can get this amazing looking thing. And I think within a couple of weeks, it looks like our team, Frank, Cochrane and the rest, are putting to work those ideas. You know, the corner kick that went to Vescovic's head, that he found that leap, he was 2 foot above the next defender because he had the run from deep. He knew where the ball was going to be. He timed it and he flicked it on. And there was Will Lancashire with that kind of striker's instinct of being at the right place at the right time. Or was it by design? Not sure. But knowing where it was going to be just to kind of head it home. Those sorts of things, guys, are so valuable. So valuable. And I think that Vescovic is going to be such a powerful tool in those set pieces. I've been saying it to you guys for a few weeks. I think that we are taking set pieces incredibly seriously. This under Thomas Frank. All of the links we were linked with, Coney de Winter as an example, Leone as another example, Lukumi as another example, Palhinha, Douglas Luiz, all of the players, even Mohamed Kudus, who's not the set piece, he's a set piece taker rather than a set piece engager, if you like, for want of a better word. Like it's by design. It's by design. It feels like we have a conductor of an orchestra that has got his wand out and he's doing this, and everyone is playing to the beat, and it's so exciting. I know it's Reading. I know it's the first game, and forgive me. I know you're all going to say I'm like losing my mind over a game against a team that almost were relegated, almost went bankrupt even under Medeski at the end there, and they're a League One team, and calm down. But I'm not talking about the performance. I'm not talking about the result. I'm talking about the insights. Like what could you take away from the game other than a clean sheet and a victory that can give you reasons to feel really optimistic? And for me, it's the utility of the players and the way that they are being given instruction to play them to their best. Brennan Johnson running back in a hidden, disguised fashion. He's already super fast, but to get a march on a left back who's looking at the offside trap, clever. It's really clever. And with a couple more, additions, guys, to this squad, I think that, I'm super happy. I woke up this morning with a smile on my face. Doesn't usually happen. Usually I hate the fact that I've got to get up and take the dog out for a walk. Speaking of which, I haven't really walked very much, so I'm going to just quickly go through these transfer news, views and clues for you. Let me know your thoughts on all of these, guys, and please do smash the like if you enjoy these sorts of videos. We got Dave Heitner from The Guardian. So he's come out and put a little bit of a dampener on the idea of Richalison leaving. Now remember, last week we had the South American correspondent for TalkSport, whose name always escapes me. I can't remember why. I don't know why. He and a load of other people, Court Offside, Give Me Sport, all these people were saying, I think the Times even said it as well, that there's, a lot of money coming into South American football. We spoke about this on this channel for so long. multi-club ownership in Brazil has reignited. Sean Butler TV, I did a video on Brazilian multi-club ownership last summer, and there's a lot of money. And for certain teams like Fluminense and Palmeiras, who participated in the Club World Cup, they made a lot of money, and they're trying to now bridge the gap where it's not always a one-way direction of travel of the quality leaving Brazil and going to Europe. They want to start this kind of idea, especially as they have a new TV rights deal that's going to be engaging in European markets more prominently over the next year and over the next 5 years. They want to try to kind of level the playing field and start to bring players back. And how do you do that? Well, you start that very difficult process by getting a homegrown player like a Richalison, who comes with a big brand, who's Brazil's number 9, and you convince him to come back. And with that, do others follow? And so the story was that Palmeiras and Fluminense are after Richalison, and the numbers that were being banded around at 50 million quid. I mean, it's insane money. Of course, I'd bite your hand off for it. And of course, I'd love to see it, but I just don't think it will happen. However, there's the added variable, of course, that, you know, Richarlison's just had a child. His partner is, I think, Brazilian as well. Her family's back home from what I've read. And maybe she wants to kind of go back and be with the family and let the kind of, you know, it's a very kind of family cultural kind of environment, isn't it? You know, with the religion at the center and things. So it will be interesting. And that story got a lot of legs. However, Dave Heitner came out and said, from The Guardian last night, and said that he would actually prefer to stay if he, you know, absent some really interesting project, he wants to stay at Tottenham and fight for his place. So again, you know, cue the cop block commentary. But so yeah, Dave Heitner's basically put a block on it, or a temporary block, saying it's unlikely. And The Guardian, look, I mean, they're not a bad outlet for football. They don't make things up all the time, but you know, it's just a bit of a shame. Anyway, moving on, we'll see what happens there. Like I say, there's a lot of cop blocks at Tottenham right now. You know, Bissouma, as I said yesterday, he was really angry when a little move he tried to pull off with Sonny didn't happen. I don't know whether he's either playing for he's angry because even though it was a friendly, he feels like his place is on the line. He feels like he has to prove himself for Thomas Frank to want him to stay. I'm not sure, but he was really angry about that. It was really interesting. Ilie Zabarnyi, the story's back today. It's back around in Court Offside. It's back on Give Me Sport. It's back in, I think, is it the Telegraph or the Times? One of the two big ones. Zabarnyi to Tottenham is actually a story that's trending again on Twitter, and that PSG don't want to pay the asking price. Other clubs that are interested in him, like Arsenal, don't want to pay the asking price, but apparently Tottenham are willing to pay the asking price and get it done. Now, this, to me, at this stage, suggests that maybe Tottenham are looking, if there's truth to it, and who knows, but they're looking to get him in, not necessarily as a replacement for Romero. And we didn't see a back three yesterday. We very much saw a back four. And with the emergence of that performance from Luka Vuskovic, and Kevin Danso was no mug. He thought he did really well. I thought Ben Davies was good on the left-back spot as well. Is Ben Davies going to be playing as the replacement left-back for Destiny Udogie? Is that like one of the kind of ends of the stories of the transfer window? Is Ben Davies playing as that left-back guy? Jed Spence and Pedro Porro clearly on the right. Is Ben Davies playing as a left-back? And therefore, we have to pick between Romero, Van der Ven, Danso, Dragusin, and Vuskovic as our six sort of options at centre-back. And if so, is there space for Zabarnyi? I would still make the argument that I don't believe Zabarnyi would want to come to Tottenham to be a rotation player. I really just don't see that happening. But all of the stories are saying that Tottenham are really interested and are willing to pay the asking price. Like, they've got the money, and it's suddenly, all of a sudden, with no negotiation, suddenly it's, yep, let's just get it done. The ambition looks incredible. I'd love to see Zabarnyi come in. I really would. Because I know that Romero, whether he's here or otherwise, when he is here, he's still not fit more than 50, 60% of the time. And the same with Van der Ven. Zabarnyi can play off the left. Vuskovic played on the right yesterday. Kevin Danso played on the left-hand side. I didn't think he did a bad job, but there were some sort of sloppiness, not from him specifically, but sloppiness around that six area in the way that we were sort of trying to distribute the ball out. So I'd love to see it. I still find it a stretch, guys. I've got to be honest, I do find it a stretch. £50 million the asking price. Arsenal won't pay it. Neither will PSG. Can Tottenham just go in there, pay the money, and get it done? How would you feel about it if it was an addition? Would him coming in essentially then mean that that Vuskovic goes out on loan? And I don't want that to happen, because I think that Vuskovic has so much value, especially in a team that plays a slightly lower line like we were playing yesterday. We were happy to be a low line. We weren't doing the high press. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Moving on, next story, Jacob Ramsey and Xavi Simons. These two stories won't go away. Xavi Simons is still very much linked with Tottenham. A guy that's a 10 that can play off the left. Think of him as like a slightly lighter weight but more technical version of Eberechi Eze for me. Both of them occupy that same spot. I was pretty convinced that Xavi Simons would go to Bayern Munich to replace the injured Malia, what's his name? Can't think of his name. The guy who broke his ankle. And anyway, sorry, my mind's gone blank. I'll stick it in a text overlay. But the reality is that Tottenham are still very much interested in him, apparently, as are Arsenal. Again, though, I'm not sure if he's a left winger the way that we think of a left winger. He's not going to replace Sonny and do what Sonny tries to do, but better and more appropriately. He's someone that wants to drift in and be involved in a more central area. And that is, that's fine. I've got no problem with that. Of course, Eze would be my first choice in that regard, but he doesn't really fit the role of a left winger. And according to Ben Jacobs, Tottenham are very much interested still in getting a left winger into the club. Now, do they want, maybe they don't want a left winger to do what, Kudus is going to do off the right. Maybe they want a left winger to drift in and to have a little bit more sort of flexibility within the creative space, more maybe like a double 10, if you know what I mean. I'm not sure, but if we are looking for a traditional left to replace a Sonny sort of role and for someone like Mathys Tel to interchange with, then Xavi Simons is a fantastic player, but again, it's just an interesting choice. Same goes for Jacob Ramsey, by the way. Jacob Ramsey, this is another story that won't go away, that Tottenham are still very much interested in competing with West Ham for Jacob Ramsey. Now, again, I don't dislike Jacob Ramsey as a player. He's underwhelming to me as a signing. I don't particularly want to help Aston Villa out. I think that they're cop blocked right now. It's kind of good to see from a competitive perspective. So, and also, I'm not really sure what role he is. To me, Jacob Ramsey is a midfielder. He's like an 8, but he's on the left side of a double pivot. But that doesn't. He's like a box to box, but that somehow gets shoehorned out on the left-hand side. It's a weird formational peg for me. I just don't think that he solves the solution either. I don't mind the player. There's a lot of players that I love, but that don't make any sense for Tottenham to be linked with. And he, for me, is one of them. Very much so. Last story for you guys is a little bit of a Gibbs-White update. So the ITKs these days, there's so many ITKs. There's so many ITKs that you have to really sit there and shake hands with the idea that these guys are going to serious depths to try to find some value. And so first and foremost, he played yesterday, right? Which on the one hand looks bad, right? If he's being asked to play, then Forest clearly think of him as their player, and there's no value in the contract that the clause that we've triggered. That's the way that they're thinking about it, which I think is, it's confident on their part. But as I said yesterday, at this stage, if we think that we are in the right, then it shouldn't be them that's threatening us with legal. We should be threatening them with legal. If we have triggered their clause and we did it in the right way, and they're playing a player that we intend to purchase and have paid the money that we have to pay, well, they shouldn't be able to do that. So the fact that we've allowed them to do that, and the fact that we haven't pushed this story on, to me actually leans logically here towards the perspective that we probably have been caught with our hand in the cookie jar. We have done something that we shouldn't have done, because otherwise we wouldn't be okay with this, with what happened. After the game, he was applauded off by the Forest fans. They sang his name, and he gave like a kind of the heart thing to them, saying, love you, thanks very much. But he looked angry and frustrated during the game. It looked like he didn't, excuse me, didn't want to be there. Now, all the rumours are out, all the rumours are out right now saying that that he's put in a transfer request and it will be done by Monday, yada, yada, yada. I'm starting to feel like it's going to end up less likely than more as time goes on. However, the ITKs out there have gotten to the new levels of weirdness to make sense and make heads or tails of this. Apparently, Morgan Gibbs-White's wife or partner has liked and followed 3 beauty salons in the same area of London, not sure wherever there's a rumour that they are moving to, which is a weird one if true, and that Morgan Gibbs-White apparently, I can't believe this would happen, but apparently he followed and liked a removals company that specialise in sort of long distance removals from one city to another. So these are the stories that I'm having to bring to your attention because the absence of any updates. The update is that that on social media the game has been given away, and that he's moving. He's hired a removals company, and that his wife has already followed 3. Can't believe I'm saying this. 3 beauty salons in a certain area, and you put 2 and 2 together, and she's going to get her nails done and her hair done. The first thing she does when she arrives in a couple of days' time. All of the other rumours that are coming out from legitimate journalists are saying that Tottenham are putting together some sort of final package where it's like a slightly bit of compensation, a smoothing over of the waters, which again makes you feel like if Daniel Levy's doing that, or if it's Vinay or whoever it is that's making these moves and getting these deals organised, then it makes you think that Tottenham probably have had their hand caught in the cookie jar, and that we screwed up by bidding the exact amount at the exact time, and that that there was no way that we could have known it. However, it still goes back to the idea to me of like, at some point in that whole story, either the agent was a bozo for allowing a clause to be entered into the contract, but then an NDA put on it. He maybe was silly to think, oh, we can just dance around that by kind of giving a nudge and a wink to a buying club. But if the subsections of those clauses were saying, well, if someone knows and they're not supposed to know, then it completely reneges the entire clause altogether, then again, like, clever on Marinakis' part, stupid on the agent. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. At the end of the day, though, you've got a player who wants to be at Tottenham who doesn't want to be at Nottingham Forest. So surely it's better for everybody. Now that no one's losing face, Marinakis isn't losing face anymore. He stood up for his team. He stood up for his right to be right and all that stuff. And congratulations. But at the same time, you're holding on to a player who doesn't want to be there. And you've got the money that you arguably wanted to have put in. I still make the argument that if someone does put in a bid above the clause, then you legally you have to be informed that there is a clause. And so how is it that Manchester City were apparently forging ahead with an £80 million valued offer that included James McAtee? Because at that point, if what that logic would suggest, that once that bid has come in, then unless the valuations of the players were different, then wouldn't Nottingham Forest have had to have let Manchester City know about the clause at the same time? I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, but the whole thing's messy. As I say, I'd like it to be finished by tomorrow latest, and we'll let you know here if and when there's any updates. But yeah, that's it, guys. For me, the main takeaway is Tottenham have got, in the initial instance, for me, a vision, a group of people that are tactically intuitive, curious, organised, smart, adaptive in game, thinking about things all the time, and putting to work a set of instructions that look to get the best value out of our team. And to me, that is something that is incredibly exciting. And if you can just throw in a 6 like a Palhinha, who, by the way, £25 million, I forgot to mention this, sorry, CF Bayern, the CF Bayern guy, not Plessyberg, the other guy whose name escapes me again, sorry, he said that Tottenham can get Palhinha for £25 million right now. She's got to pay the money and we're done. I put it on Twitter. I think it's the most logical and sensible bit of business that Tottenham could do. It plugs a hole. He's a Champions League experienced player. He's a Premier League proven player. He's a hole filler, and he's a winner. And he absolutely will be something that allows us to do what we need to do in other areas of the park. It makes so much sense. It doesn't matter if he's not the player that he once was. He is still a short-term solution for a massive, massive problem at our club. And if you go in the other direction and you drop 80 or 100 million quid on Adam Wharton, that cock blocks yourself for the rest of the window elsewhere, and we still have other things to do. But if we can get this done at this price point, and then go after a left winger to replace Sonny, and then hopefully if Richalison is willing to move on as well, get a striker, then Tottenham, under this stewardship that for me has shown the early grass shoots, the green shoots of intelligent tactical play, of which Cochrane, I think, is very much the driving force of, good things can happen. Let me know your thoughts, guys. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, bye-bye.